You've heard of rom-coms where the guy always gets the girl. You've seen drom-coms where 1 minute you're laughing and the next you're crying. Well, this is TraumCom, where we face our inner demons head on. You know, the ones that caused us all that trauma. And then we're going to make fun of them together until they get real uncomfortable in a fun yet supportive space. And here we go. So, hello everybody. My name is Jacqueline Goldstein. I'm your host for TraumCom Podcast. And it is April 3rd. We are in our April month. It is Stress Awareness Month. It is also Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And today I have a special guest on my show, Kamathi Watson. And everybody welcome him. And Kamathi, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Okay, my name is Kamathi Watson. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm a case manager over at the SCRIP program in Hartford. The SCRIP program, we treat untreated trauma. It's for returning citizens that come home from prison, and I'm a case manager there.
Okay, great. And SCRIP, that stands for Second Chance Reentry Initiative Program.
You go, right? Yes, sir.
Okay, I do my homework.
That's it.
And so I love that so much because a lot of people, and so can you elaborate a little bit about the reentry and second chance? So what specifically does that mean, and who are your typical clients?
Okay, well, reentry, we call it returning citizens, but we have individuals that are actually in halfway houses or coming home from incarceration. And what we do is we provide them with services. We provide them with job training. We provide them with resume writing. Being that I was incarcerated myself, that's why I'm so close to the problem. So sometimes I think I'm too close to the problem. But what we do is we actually help guys out. We help them with, and definitely we help them with trauma.
Okay.
SCRIP program is basically, it's a trauma-based program where we help individuals with untreated trauma from urban cities. And there's a lot of things that go with trauma that people don't like to address. And
That's
unfortunately, individuals that come home, they may not even identify that the fact that they have this trauma and it's causing them, hurdles, it's causing them problems to, reintegrate back into society.
Absolutely.
So we actually address this trauma. We have a program called the Ascend program. SCRIP, there's different programs inside the SCRIP program, but the Ascend program is a 15-week program that we actually help individuals address and the untreated trauma that they suffer from.
Okay. Well, and where is that?
That's located in Hartford on Charter Oak at 75 Charter Oak Ave, Suite 240.
And that's SCRIP, C-S-R-I-P.
No, S-C-R-I-P.
No T.
Script.
It's not script.
No,
it's
script.
Just script.
S-C-R-I-T-P.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little slow. It's been a long day.
No, you're good.
So, all right. So why don't you let us know, too, because, you said that you had been incarcerated yourself, and that way you can relate to a lot of the people that come to the program, the participants of the program.
Yes.
May I ask you, how long were you incarcerated for?
24, a little bit over 24 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a long time. For some, that's a whole lifetime.
Because I got locked up when I was about 24, so I spent pretty much half my life in prison.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so what'd you do?
Long story short, I got into a fight when I was younger. I was in a gang. I was really, in the streets, how they say it. Yeah. And somebody had an issue with my brother, and we got into a fight, and he lost his life. He got stabbed a couple times, and he lost his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely a story that is not unique, unfortunately.
No.
There's lots of circumstances where the intention is just to, scrap it out, just, get a one-on-one, get
shoot
a head up.
That's what we call shoot a 30.
Shoot 30, shoot the fair one, whatever people want to say. But sometimes, that can definitely evolve into something else.
But see, the thing in a situation like that is you have to understand the mentality. Mm-hmm. And I tell a lot of people, and that's why I say even when me working as a case manager, how I'm so close to the problem is because you can identify certain things, you see certain things.
Yeah.
So when at the time when I'm in the streets, when you have certain problems, you take care of certain problems. And sometimes it's an extreme way to do it, but like I try to explain to people when I was younger, the whole thing was chasing a reputation.
Right.
Chasing this reputation. And then what you got to do is I call it an insatiable beast, because you have to keep feeding it and feeding it.
Because you care so much about what other people think about you at the point and at that moment.
Well, if you in the streets, it's not even as that you care
Well,
about what other people think.
that's what the definition of a reputation is what people think about you.
Yeah.
It's what people think about when they hear your name.
Yeah.
What rings true. What is the first thing people think about? That's your reputation. And that is what other people think about you, right?
Yes.
I mean, really.
But unfortunately, I was trying to shoot for a bad reputation.
Right.
So instead of me right now being the man that I am today, I want to have a reputation of being a good father. I want to be a reputation of being a provider. I want to be a reputation of being, when I get married, to be a good husband.
Yeah.
So that's the type of reputation. But back then, the reputation that I had, I wanted to be, you know what it is. I wanted individuals to know, you mess with our clique, you dealing with us, it's going to be a problem. And as a result, everything became, again, is extreme. Yeah. It's like extreme certain circumstances. Something happened, we're not fighting.
Change your whole life.
Yeah.
Change the course
doing extreme things
of your whole life.
Yeah.
And that is something that, like I said, is something that when we're in it in that moment. We don't think always about the future and the consequences.
Yeah, never in a million years would I have thought that I was going to spend that much time in prison.
Not even that morning when you woke up.
Nah.
Right. I mean,
even the judge said that. The judge said, I don't think that, he said, I could see how you were and the fact that I was, around my daughter. And he said, but they can also see from my past history, because I got arrested when I was younger. I used to fight, again, in school, fighting. That was always my problem with fighting. I always felt like, just on a different topic. It's because I was light-skinned. So I always had this thing where I felt like, I always had an issue with dark-skinned dudes. It was just weird.
Because,
I always had beef, and that was always a problem.
I don't know what it is, because I'm light-skinned too. I'm mixed. My dad's white, my mom's black, but I identify as African-American. I identify with my black culture because I was raised predominantly by my mother's side of the family. So that's what I identify as. But growing up, I don't know what the fuck it was, but like dark-skinned black women, girls, did not fucking like me.
No.
A lot of times. I mean, unless they were just really cool, But I mean, there was every time I had a problem, it was dark-skinned black women sometimes, and it was like, I've never been black enough for the black culture.
Yeah, it's race within race.
They look, they look at you like, oh, little cute little white little thing, little light skin little thing. Oh, you're so, I've always kind of felt that animosity sometimes, and I think that stems from a systematic approach of like what society deems as beautiful, what society deems attractive, what a society deems appropriate. And a lot of times in the past, in growing up, in our time of growing up, it was a lot of lighter skinned women that were like almost glorified in publicity, in like entertainment, in all kinds of ads and things like that, in stories, and
it's this institutional racism.
History. It is institutional racism, and that started from light is good, dark is bad. The villains always wear black, the heroes always wear white. And then it came to grow into more of a deeper problematic approach.
I think when it came down as far as the black community with me, and I know that when it came down to me, is light-skinned dudes is always considered soft.
So isn't that crazy?
Yeah, light-skinned dudes is always considered soft. So you had it where it was like light-skinned dudes can't fight. So whenever we was in a situation, they was always messing with me.
They still say things like that about like R&B singing light skin, like Drake. They talk about Drake and being light skin, singing nigga like what's going on. And that's what it is. It's crazy. But
that's what it is. So that's being confronted with that, where now I was the one that had to fight. So whenever it was a situation, it was like he the soft one, he the sucker, so I got to fight. So then it got to a point when I started getting a little, teenage years, I'm like, now I'm going to show you I'm not a sucker. I'm going to do something to you before it even happened, just to prove, and again, trying to feed that reputation.
Because you grew to have a chip on your shoulder, and you grew to be defensive automatically, because you're not going to let someone else get the one up on you ever again, ever at all. So it's a defense mechanism. It's a coping mechanism. Certainly, there's a fight or flight instinct in all of us, and some of us instinctually flight and will choose to be passive and walk away, run away sometimes if need be, and other times there are people like you and I who have the fight instinct to stand our ground, and also not just stand our ground and defend ourselves, but to also there's something extra in there.
Well, no, I just seen a lot of things. Like, I
Yeah.
don't go into a lot, but I seen a lot of things. I seen a
Right.
lot of people get hurt. I seen people get stabbed. I seen people get really hurt. So, and I was like, that's not going to be me.
Right.
And just to give you a quick story, I got kidnapped one time, and these dudes kidnapped me.
How
and
old
they
were
tortured
you?
Me. I was like probably about, this when I was in the mix, so I was probably about 17, 18.
So
So
give
they-
us a little backstory on that.
Yeah, no, I thought my man set us up. So we were supposed to get this rent a car. I'll never forget it. It was a 2-door Great Cavalier. My man said we was gonna go get the car. So I never forget. I ended up getting in the back seat, and when I got in the back seat, the dude, they was smoking,
Yeah.
and when they was smoking, they was giving me the weed. They was passing the weed around. So
Yeah.
I'm like, niggas don't know what they doing. So I'm
Right.
smoking. I ain't know they lining me up. I ain't know
Right.
that they was getting me off point. So I'm smoking, getting high, and then they started talking. And when they started talking, they used to call me K, and they was like, yeah, you and K, and this and this and that. And then I'm like, why is this dude calling me this? Because I had it's street things that I used to do. I used to tell females one name, and then I would tell street dudes one name, then I would tell somebody else one name. So when somebody come and approach me, I'd be like, I know who you heard that from. You either heard that from a female or you heard that. That was like little tricks we did. So when they said this specific name, I knew I was messed up, but I was already in the car. And then it happened. Once they started fighting me. They tried to stab me, but that messed me up. And I had a white shirt on, so they pushed me out in the front of the Gold Building in downtown. I was all bloodied up. But that from then, it was like, I would say a switch went off. And I was like, that's not gonna happen no more. That's not gonna happen. So I said, anytime something like this is in a situation where I feel like I'm threatened or I'm in danger, I'm gonna get you first.
Yeah.
I promise I'm
It's
gonna
a
get you before you get me,
natural
because
thought
that was just the dynamics
process.
now.
Yeah.
That was just the street. That was street dynamics where it's like, if you're gonna be in this mix, that's why they say we can't have one foot in, one foot out.
Right.
So when I got in that scenario, when that happened, it was full throttle now. Now it's like we in the streets now. We in the streets, anything happen, we out here.
Yeah, you kind of hardened yourself because you had to. And unfortunately, a lot of people go through that and experience that, feel that way when they feel like their back's up against a wall. I mean, it's not something, aggression typically is not something that is the initial move.
No.
You know, it's something that is a backlash. Sometimes it can be caused by triggers, caused by PTSD from things that have happened in our past. And I wanted to know, have you gone to therapy at all and ever been talk to somebody about possibly having PTSD symptoms and things like that? Or
No, I actually just talked to someone, and because they was asking me and they was talking about certain things. They was asking me about my father. And I grew up in an abusive household. My father was very abusive and certain things like that. And they asked me, how did I work through it and resolved it? And I tell a lot of people that I did a lot of soul searching by myself. Like when I was incarcerated, that was like it was the best thing that ever happened to me, and it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, because at the rate that I was going, it was no
Right.
question that I was going to end up getting either killed or it was inevitable.
or
But-
life.
yeah, I was, but
Yeah.
I was facing life anyways. I was facing life, and when because I said it was a situation when my brother was kind of involved, I took that. So I was like, it don't make sense. I took that. I'm gonna take that. So my brother, and there was a whole bunch of different stuff that came with that. But
Family
I
is
took that.
a whole nother level of thought process, because
Yeah.
a lot of people have a level head when it comes to certain situations, but when it comes to family,
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, that goes out the window.
Yeah, no. When it came to my family,
Yeah.
that's like I said, it's certain things
You got to
that
do what you
was-
got to do sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, that was the mentality. The mentality was if like family, even my boys will fight. We'll do stuff like that. Like, we clicked up, we fight. But with my family, it's like now you playing with something that's not. You don't do that.
Yeah.
Because it's like family. Even if you we go by codes. So family, kids, your girl, all that's supposed to be off limits.
Okay.
So for you to try to pull family into this, now you showing that the rules is off the table
Right,
now.
right.
Now it's
So
just
now
whatever.
it's no holds
Because
barred.
it's supposed to be as crazy as it sound, a level of honor, a level of respect, where you don't have people. If you're not in the streets, you're not gonna pull you in it. If your sister, brother, they're not in this. They're not in that. That's your boys. They could get it, but your women, you don't do that.
Right.
But if you on that type of time,
Okay.
and some people get on that type of time, then it's a wrap. Now it's whatever.
Yeah.
So you're a mentor, right?
Yes.
And we have Liam here,
Yeah.
who is our
Yes.
beloved producer, and we love him so much.
With your experiences you had in your past, with all these things that happened to you, how do you think that helps you as a mentor, really, with the stuff you're doing?
I think it helps me as a mentor. I know it helps me as a mentor because I can identify with a lot of things. Like right now, I talk to an individual, and I'm not going to say his name, but
Yeah.
he's dealing with a situation where his son just got clicked up. His son is in a gang, and his son is active. And
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all familiar with these terms, but
Yeah.
his son is active.
I maybe, but you can also break it down
I'm
for our
not.
listeners.
Okay.
I'm just be
Yeah.
straight up.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay. So his son is a gang member,
Yeah.
and being that when I'm saying that he's active, meaning
Yeah.
that he's on,
Actively,
meaning that he's doing
Got it.
things.
he's in the streets. You know what I'm
Got you.
saying?
Yep.
Respectfully, but so his son is active, and
Yeah.
his son now he's coming to the program. He's talking, and he's telling me now that his son is telling him, "You got to respect my rank as a gang member, not as a son and a father, but you got to respect my rank as a gang member." So his father is telling him, "What you talking about? You my son," but his son wants to get the respect of the streets, respect
Yeah.
of the gang. So he's telling them. So when you're asking about what type of mentorship I can do,
Yeah.
I'm talking to him from an individual that's saying, now as a father, as an ex-gang member, and as an individual that's going to tell you that this is what's going to happen. I'm going to talk to you real. I ain't going to bullshit you. I'm going to talk to you real.
Yeah.
So now you could either tell your son, you could try to scrap it out with him, or you could go to the OGs, which is the older gang members, the individuals that put them on, and you can tell them individuals, listen, this is my son. So that's blood, that's family. You gonna either do this and that, but now if the son don't go by it,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's a big issue.
I get what you're saying,
But
yeah.
but the point is for me to sit up there and talk to him man to man, one on one, and give him a perspective from not somebody that's talking about nothing that I don't know. I'm talking to you about stuff that I know.
Yeah.
I believe that it was more impactful.
Exactly.
Because now he looking at me like Duke OG. You know what he talking
You
about?
have experience.
Yeah, I know the ranks, and
Yeah.
I'm telling him, go to the OGs, go to the dudes that put him on, go to the dudes that swore him in, and you talk to them. You tell them, pull your rank, and that's how you talk to them. And then now I'm giving him, because I'm not going to tell you go to the police. I'm not going to say do none of that. Not to say that that's not wrong, but I just know that wouldn't be effective.
No.
And
In
I
that
know
way
if I
of,
would,
in that way of
probably make
life.
it worse.
yeah, and if I would
Yeah.
have approached him like that, talking about go, just automatically he'd have been like, yeah, you're done here.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to him, and I'm giving him the best advice I could give him
Yeah.
as a mentor and as somebody who's been through that, but at the same time telling him this is the consequence. This was going to happen. I'm going to let you know right now. If you keep going that route, if you keep trying to save somebody, even your son, you keep trying to save him and he don't want to be saved, it's like they're saying, well, somebody drowning, he just going to pull you down too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bad to say that like that, but I'm just
Yeah.
keeping it real with you.
No, it's
you know?
it's honest. Yeah,
It
and I think
is.
people appreciate that. I think from your perspective, it really gives them more insight to themselves to look at themselves and be like, yeah, this is a basic reflection of myself through another
Absolutely.
person.
Yeah.
So I think that really helps out. And another question. If you could go back for yourself in that time frame, like that age, and you could go back and talk to yourself before you did that before you did that action, like what would you probably say to yourself to pull yourself from not doing that, or like what would you say to yourself, I guess?
At the time
In
of my
hindsight.
crime,
In
Yeah.
hindsight.
In
Yeah.
hindsight.
in my crime, I mean, at the time of my crime, you couldn't talk to me at that time,
Yeah.
because I was so deep in it that I was past the point of talking.
But if
Now,
you could say something to your then self, what would you say?
to that person that was in there,
Yeah.
you gonna spend your life in prison, because nothing at the time. And again, at the time, the things that should have been done, and if you're asking me what would I have said, what I would have did is I would have tried to show him a different perspective.
Yeah.
I would have tried to show him that there's a different life than the life that you committed yourself to.
Yeah.
Because I was so deep in it, I couldn't see out of it.
Yeah.
So to try to give me insight or tell me, hey, go get a job and
Yeah.
go work at the.
We want to work.
What you talking about, man?
Yeah.
You
Right.
talking about? I'm go get it. They're gonna kill me if I had that job. So the thing that I would have did is I would have tried to say, first of all, look at life and try to go someplace else. Go someplace else. Look at other things, because believe it or not, it's bigger than this.
Yeah.
So I would have tried to point out and stress to myself, it's bigger than what you're seeing, because you so deep in it
Yeah.
You can't see outside of it, and
Yeah.
you're going to end up going. You now is again you too deep. So
I think a lot of people have that issue, not even just with gang related stuff, but just their own lives of just being so fixated on the small things that they make it into these big things that they forget that
They
there's
lose
so
sight.
much
Yeah.
there's so much more stuff.
Absolutely. Well-
So I deal with a lot of friends that are like that all the time. They're like, well, this is the problem right now, and this is the problem that's going to be like this forever. It's like, dude, tomorrow it's going to be done.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
it's done tomorrow.
Yeah.
So just deal with it right now, stress about it, whatever right now, but tomorrow wake up with a fresh mindset, because if you keep fixating on this, it's going to be an issue tomorrow
Yes.
too.
Right.
It
So-
becomes circular, and that was one of my major problems. Is I was my own worst enemy.
Exactly.
And that's why I said, because I was the type of person where I would
Mm-hmm.
literally gas myself up. I would tell myself, these dudes is playing with you, they think you a sucker, and I would
Mm-hmm.
self-talk myself into something crazy.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, reputation doesn't just play a factor when you're in the streets. You know what I mean? I mean, there's plenty of suburban kids out there that are worried about their reputation every day when they wake up and every night when they go to sleep. They're worried about if they're going to be seen as, if there's going to be something on Facebook or Instagram that's going to pop up and not get them into the college of their dreams that they work so hard for. There's people out there, there are girls that, you know, want a boyfriend so bad, or want to be seen as something different, and they try to portray themselves as something that they're really not, so that they get the attention that they crave in certain situations. Not just young women, young men do it all the time. So reputation that you talked about earlier, it does play a big factor in so many young people's lives. And let's not forget that there's so many adults that their reputation matters so much to them. They'll do almost anything to make sure that the world doesn't see their true colors.
Yeah.
You know, so or see them or view them as weak, or view them as not smart enough, or view them as not rich enough, or view them as just not good enough. And there's so many people out here that go out of their way sometimes, and they ruin their future, and they ruin a portion of their life. I don't like to say ruin your life, because life is everlasting as long as you do, and it's ever changing, because as long as we are lasting, we are changing. People, human beings, no matter who you are, we're supposed to change. We're supposed to evolve. We're supposed to grow. We're supposed to get better than what we were yesterday. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. As long as you're better than you were the day before, you're making progress. It's growth. And as long as you have that growth mindset, that growth mentality, I think that there is redemption and there's reform for everybody, which is why I myself take it upon myself to work with the program that you are involved in. You're a case manager for SCRIP. Again, Second Chance Reentry Initiative Program. That's in Hartford, Connecticut. And I have been a guest facilitator a couple of times, working with the participants of the program, because not only is that second chance for them to have a different mindset, but it's also for them to become an active member of society in a positive way, and to earn an income and to be able to care for themselves and their families. So I know that you work with the trauma portion of, you know, that program, which is amazing. And not everybody can do that. You know, so kudos again to you. But, you know, so, and then there's like the other end, right? And then there's job training and, you know, learning how to, you know, be able to write a resume and to do things to be able to make yourself be seen in a positive light so that you can get your foot in the door and be able to experience new things and have a different level of trust be placed upon you in a workforce. So that's something that I like to incorporate myself in and volunteer my time sometimes. in helping people to understand that they're worthy of the job that that lady has walking into that building right there. They should have and could have, a lot of equal opportunities, and whatever opportunities come their way, they have to seize it.
But you also got to teach, because one of the things that I think that is lost, like even when I'm having a conversation with my son's mother about certain things, and we're trying to equip individuals that, because supplying somebody with a job and they don't have the mental whereabout to handle that job is pointless. So if you put somebody on a job, but they haven't, worked through some of the issues that they had, they haven't worked through the trauma, they haven't worked through the trust issues, they haven't worked through certain things, it's pointless to get them a job.
Exactly.
So that's one
why
of the
you do the
reasons
trauma
why,
piece
exactly.
first.
That's why one
at
of the
script.
things that we do is we say we want to identify certain things. We want to identify these triggers. What we want to do is we want to substitute the values that you had, and that's one of the major things that happened for me. What I did is I substituted my negative values for positive values. Because again, when we're talking about the reputation, there's nothing wrong with saying that I want to strive to have a reputation, I want to preserve my reputation. But what reputation are you preserving?
Exactly.
See what I'm saying? So it's not even about saying that these things are bad. It's just about now you just have to shift. So the value that I had before, I valued a negative reputation. Now I value a positive reputation.
Right.
And do I still value my reputation? Of course I do. But it's just the fact
Everybody
that I shifted.
does.
Exactly. So
Should.
what I did is I shifted my values, and that's what we try to do. We try to teach individuals that what you think and what you held as the most important thing in your life, as you can see now, is most of it is pointless.
Right.
I held the standard of my friends, how they felt about me.
Yep.
That's the highest thing to me. Pointless. When I was
Right.
inside court, nobody was there.
Yep.
I'm facing life. Nobody was there. You know what I'm saying? My family was there. So now the fact that I said that, let me shift that thought process, and let me go to now being more concerned about how my family values me than my boys value me.
Yes. Priorities.
Completely different. So I
Yeah.
still want that reputation. I still want these things, but I've learned now that I can have a positive reputation instead of that negative reputation.
And you can gain so much more from life.
Absolutely.
So that growth you talk about and all that stuff of people, some people you worked with before, do you think some of them needed that jail time to grow and all that, or do you think some of them just really didn't help
Do you
them
think it
out that
helped
much?
or hindered?
I think absolutely they needed that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that I tell people that it sounds horrible to say this, but like I said before, and unfortunately
I think
stand
people
by
need to
this.
hear it.
Yeah, prison was the best thing that happened to me. Prison was the best thing that happened to me, meaning that, and even my brother was telling me before, he said, I wish you didn't have so much time.
Right.
But he said, you needed to sit down.
You needed a hard stop.
Yeah, I needed to
Yeah.
sit down, because my problem is I got away with everything. Just being real, I got away with everything. I would smile, I would do certain
A
things.
lot of people are in that same position. They
and
feel
it-
like they're just on top of
I
the
got
world,
away. I got away.
invincible,
And my father used to bail me
entitled.
out. My father constantly bailed me out. My father constantly made excuses for me. My father constantly coddled me. My father constantly enabled me, and it put me in a position psychologically where I was like, nobody could touch me.
Yeah.
Nobody could touch anything I'm doing. Somebody gonna save me. Anything I'm doing, I'm gonna get out of it.
Yeah.
And so it was a situation where when I ended up going to prison, again, a quick story. They tried to say that we tried to. It was in a market shop. This was in 2001. I got locked up in '97. This is in 2001. I went through the whole stuff. When you first get in, you got to fight. You got to go through all of that. So I went through all of that. I ended up going into the market shop. The market shop is where they make the license plates, typical license plate shop. But what happened is they tried to say that we tried to start a riot because they were saying that we didn't have, they took our clotheslines away. And because they took our clotheslines away, the prison, it was a universal memo that they put up that said nobody in the prison could have clotheslines in the block no more. But we was in a working block. So we was like, nah, we different. We could have clotheslines.
Right, because you got to get it done.
Because we got to get it done, and not the lieutenants, but the what you call it inside the block, the counselors in the block.
Yeah.
They signed off on that, but it wasn't for the whole jail. So long story short, rookie COs came around and they was trying to write tickets for everybody who had clotheslines. We tell them, no, that's we working. They was like, we don't care. It's a memo. That's not our problem. Long story short, the lieutenants that came around. You don't go to the lieutenants one-on-one because if you go to the lieutenants one-on-one, you could be considered like a snitch.
Yeah,
They don't know what
exactly.
you're saying. So you
Yeah.
got to go with somebody else. If I walk up to a CO, talk to CO by myself, I'm
Yeah.
suspect. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So long story short, we was like, you know what? All of us gonna go. All of us gonna go. Horrible decision. Because what we did is we all shut down our machines. Lieutenants walked around. We ran up on them. They called the code, threw us in SAG. Because they couldn't pinpoint who was the person to orchestrate this, they kept us in SEG for months under investigation. As a result, week after week, I'm inside there. And inside there in SEG, down in solitary confinement.
I was gonna say, you explained. What
Yeah, okay,
SEG
yeah.
is.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, we call it box trips, but it's solitary. It's
Yeah.
called solitary confinement, where you don't have anything inside there.
Yeah.
It's
got
just
a
you
TV.
by yourself.
Yeah, you just sitting there by yourself, and that's when it hit me. It hit me because I said to myself at the time, I was like 20, maybe like 28, and I said, every decision that I made in my life led me here. Every decision that I made
Yeah.
led
You
me
decided
here.
to hold yourself accountable.
And no, what it did is I would say that was my rock bottom.
Yeah.
Because I was so disgusted with myself that I was like, I can't, look at me. Inside there, you don't have, all they give you is an orange jumpsuit. You got your flip-flops, no sneakers, and that's it. 2 T-shirts and maybe a wool blanket. And night after night, day after day, week after week, you know, you try to stay up during the day so that, or you try to do something during the day so you sleep all night because you try to sleep your bit away. Inside SEG, you try to sleep your bit away. But after week, I was just sitting there and I'm telling you, it hit me where I said, this is my life, man. This is my life, man. And it's like, not only am I effing up out there, I'm in here getting boxed up, man.
I know, yeah.
So I kept saying, yo, something's wrong, man.
Right.
Something is wrong with my process. Something's wrong. Somebody do something, I'm doing something to them. This happened, I'm doing, something's wrong. So I made me, at that point, I was like, yeah, something got to change. And that's when the start of it. And I would say that was my breakthrough. I started to learn to change.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about what point during your sentence did you feel like you were going to start making positive changes and that you realized that everything that you had done in the past to get you in there was a mistake and wasn't what you really wanted? How long did it take you to really succumb to that ideal?
I'm definitely a couple years in. When I first went in, my mentality was, because I had murder.
Yeah.
So they put me with, they put me up top.
Yeah, exactly.
See, when you in a situation like that, I tell people, even I hear other people where they're saying that they go to certain parts of the jail, I'm like, you ain't go to where I was at.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have the time that I had. So just by default, you're gonna go to areas that's
Not as restrict.
it's not like that.
Yeah.
Everything I'm going, we going like this.
Maximum security.
Yeah, we going like this. You going to the shower,
And you're going
you going
shackled,
like this. You going like
arms
this.
and feet,
So
hands and feet.
yeah, so it's like, to me, once I reached that point when I was inside there, that is no question. That SEG trip, because I've been to SEG before, been fighting, been through all of that. And me going to SEG a couple times when you got a celly, it's nothing. It's nothing. We chopping it up.
Short
whatever.
stints or nothing.
You going
But
to
you're by
SEG for a
yourself.
week.
Yeah.
But
It
when
might
you
even be
by
like a little
yourself-
vacation for you for
Yeah, no,
a
that's-
week or something.
Literally, that's what they call it. You got some people that'll be like, I'm about to go take a trip.
Yep.
And it's literally called a box trip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, adding on to your question, basically,
Yeah.
that was the moment. So
That
what
was
did
absolutely-
what did you start doing in prison to get to start doing those positive changes? You know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
did you start doing like programs
Oh,
in
absolutely.
there and like activities? Did you start stuff in there? Like,
I
that's,
went back to school.
Yep.
I graduated college, but I graduated high school. I started going to college in there, started doing programs in there. But one of the main things was I started writing. Because writing for me, that at the time, I didn't write to be some author, you know, and I wrote several books. Didn't write for that. Didn't care about that. I wrote because I didn't like my reality. So what I did is I wanted to escape reality. So what I did is I said, let me create a world. Let me create this world. Let me create these things, you know, that's outside of here. So I'm not here anymore. So I would get I had a little chessboard. I had a chessboard that I used as a little writing table, my little composition book, and I would go in. But that was the beginning stages where I was like, when I began to do that, I began to say, hold up, I can take this energy and direct it someplace else.
you
Yeah.
just say it's therapeutic.
It was crazy therapeutic for
Right?
me. And I'm telling people's like, oh, this is, I'm like, if y'all like it, if y'all want to, I don't care.
A lot of
I'm
times
just doing that
writing-
just for writing. Yeah.
Writing is so therapeutic.
Yeah.
To some people out there that don't really know how to harness that anger or sadness that they feel. I can relate to you on that because I write, but I only write when I'm upset. Like when I'm sad or when I'm super angry or super sad, extreme lows, I write. And it gets me through it. And then not only do I kind of like release my thought process of that anger or that sadness that I'm feeling in the moment, but then I have this peace, right? And I'm like, oh shit, I fucking wrote this. I'm a motherfucking poet, and I didn't even know it. I don't know, and I just feel, and then you add that, and then there's another time where you feel, low and sad and in despair or confused or just in some kind of way just not positive, and you're feeling low, feeling down, feeling blue. A lot of people say that writing is very therapeutic and it gets them through that time period because it's a fleeting moment. Those feelings that we have are always passing moments. They shouldn't consume us to the point where it becomes our personality. So we try to find things that can release us of that emotion at the time. So I definitely would recommend to a lot of people out there, write. Just
Even
pick up
if
a
you're
pen.
journaling thoughts, sometimes
Pick
that
up a
helps.
pen and write. When I was about 12, 13 years old, I started a journal. My mother was an addict, and my father was sick, and he had moved kind of far away. He moved to Puerto Rico for a couple of years. His parents had bought a retirement home out there, and he went with them when they moved. It was better for his health, the warm weather, but I was feeling some type of way about it. But I also didn't want to burden him with the things that were going on here because I didn't want to stress him out, and I knew he was going through such delicate health issues at the time. So I wrote in this journal, and I wrote my motherfucking ass off in this journal. I mean, to the point where I wrote and I wrote and I wrote until it was finished. There was nothing else. There was no more pages. I even taped some like drug paraphernalia that I had found in my household throughout the time that I was writing that because I didn't know what it was really. And my mom smoked crack. And so there was like glass pipes and like the little stuffings and like all the little things. And I didn't know, what it was, but I just knew it was bad, and there was other things in there too. So, and I mailed the journal to my father at one point in a moment of probably like disparity, like just like hopelessness, right? Like, sorry, Dad, don't want to like let you know all this shit's been going on. I don't want to make you, your heart hurt anymore because he had heart attacks and other things. So I was like, damn. But it was, I did that and we talked about it. And he came home shortly after, and it was like an eye-opening moment for him. Long story short, fast forward a few years, I'm 18 and about to have my daughter, my first child, and my dad had already come back to Connecticut at that time, and we were just talking in the living room one day, and he comes out and he pulls out this journal, and he's like, oh, I found this. Here. And he gives it to me, and I'm like, what is this? And he's like, well, it's the journal you sent me when you were younger and you were going through all that stuff. And I like, I've never seen this before in my life. I completely blocked that out of my memory. It took me like a good year and 12.5 times to read it front to back to start remembering little journal entries. I mean, this journal, it had pages in it that had cuts in it so deep from me writing in it, like with my pen, like, I hate this. Like just, I have watermarks from tears all over the pages. I wrote my pain away, and then I blocked it out, and then seeing it again, I was like, oh my God. So I was finally, as an adult, able to like really deal with some of the emotions that I was dealing with then, because that was my way of dealing with it, was not dealing with it. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. No, that wasn't. When I was writing I wrote a couple of books, and I actually got signed, but.
Oh, okay. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, but go ahead.
No. That was just that was when I wrote. I wanted the same way how you did it. I wrote my autobiography because I wanted my kids to know me,
Okay.
and I wanted my kids to know a side of me that they didn't know. Like the only thing that they knew is what their mothers told them or what they read in the newspapers. That's it. Because I was in the news, I was all that stuff. So I wanted them to know me because
You're more than just what you were convicted of.
yes, and I didn't know if I was going to make it out.
Of course.
Because once you in there for so long and certain things happen and you're not sure. Because again, things happen. Inside prison, things happen. People, and I've seen, like I had a couple friends inside there that they lost their appeals. And when you're fighting for your appeals and you got people, 100 years, 80 years, 90 years, they begin to lose hope. And when you're in an environment where people begin to lose hope, people start to do things.
Yeah.
And you have people that will say that they're going to do things. So I was long story short, I kept saying, I want to write this because I may not make it out of here, and I want my kids to know me. I want them to know that I wasn't some dirtbag dude, that I made a mistake, that I love them, that I was just a very misguided, and I was a very angry young man. I was very angry, and I was very just, I would say I would say misled, because I don't want to say misled, because my father tried to instill certain things in me that he didn't do it right.
Can we go back a little bit to that? Like, I understand that you say in your teenage years you started really making some bad choices, but what do you think kind of led to that? Were your environment that you grew up in, do you think that played a factor? And do you think that some of your parental guidance styles, different discipline styles that you had growing up could have contributed to some of that?
Yes. Well, I believe I was taught violence. I was taught, I'm Jamaican. So
Okay.
my father was
Just-
100% Jamaican.
Okay.
And my father was a disciplinarian type of person. And what I did is, again, fast forward, I try to think about, I look back and I realized that he couldn't give me what he didn't know or what he didn't have. So what he did is his method was what he learned, and that was to beat a child. You try to beat the child, you try to correct the child through beating.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he was very, abusive. And so what I learned growing up is whenever you want to resolve a problem or deal with a problem, you
That's
beat it.
how you
hit
correct
it.
it.
Yeah, you correct it through this. So
For force. Sheer force.
so, and I'm thinking that's just on an unconscious level. I mean, it took me, as I got older, I began
course.
to identify certain things. But as a kid,
But yeah, just going back to that moment
yeah,
of like,
you fight.
Yeah.
Something happened, like we was growing up. I grew up in the Bowles Park Project. Me and my brother, you fight. If I came home, if I got beat up or something like that, you go out and you fight. You go get your brother, you go fight. That was the go-to default, fight. Violence, fight. So to me, that was just my pattern.
Yeah.
My pattern was when I'm growing up, see something, fight. You
when
wanna
you're
resolve it?
raised like
Fight.
that, you don't really stand too much of a fighting chance to have more open-minded solutions.
No,
Yeah.
you just taught that that's how you handle it.
Yeah,
You
unfortunately.
handle it like, I mean, now as an adult, you see it, but back then, that's how you handle it.
But
It's
even,
normal. That's
But
just
even
normal.
as an adult, that's how your father parented, but because of the culture that he was raised in and the time that he was raised in. Because we talked on the show, a couple different times about generational curses, generational healing, generational things that get passed down to us that we cannot control what is injected into us as we're growing.
No.
And what is inputted into our brains. That is something that unfortunately only our parents can control. And then unfortunately, again, their parents control that because that's what they know. So that's what they do. And back then there wasn't a lot of focus on youth mental health. There wasn't a lot of focus on minority mental health. There wasn't a lot of focus on rehabilitation in different ways. Like now there's a lot of programs for youth that can be used as as to interject before prison.
Corrective development.
Correct.
That was the problem. There was no corrective development. To
Right.
me, it was beatings without the understanding of why you're getting beat.
Yeah.
It was the violence without the understanding of why this violence being initiated.
Yeah,
As
just
a
know you
first
fucked up.
response.
You fucked up somehow.
That's it.
And this is what I get.
Yeah, it got to the point when
And
I
then
was
now,
younger, I
when
would
someone
take
else
that.
you see fucks up, this is what you get.
That's it. It's just violence.
It's
Yeah.
a cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
And it got to the point when I was younger and I knew I was going to get in trouble. I'm like, I'm going to get in trouble anyway. So,
So fuck it.
I'm going to just do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my ass whooped. I'm going to get beat. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And that was the mentality. Like,
Yeah.
you just accept it.
You almost double down.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
that
hit,
it's
so-
over. Like,
Yeah, I'm hit, so I
Yeah.
might as well just stay out for a minute because
Yeah.
it's going to happen either way. So
I had a healthy fear of my mother growing up myself, to the point where I consciously remember not doing certain things that my friends were doing, I remember saying to my like 10, 11, 12-year-old friends, no, my mom's going to beat my ass if she ever finds this out. Like, no, I'm good. I'm going to go home.
and I used to fear my father. I used to have that fear when I was a little bit younger, but then once I got a little bit older and I started to, unfortunately, get the taste of the streets, that fear started to slowly. And then once my father, I was like maybe 14, I used to steal bikes, steal a bunch of bikes and stuff like that. And I had stole a couple of bikes, and my father went and brought me to the house of the people that we stole the bikes, because the police ended up coming. Come to find out, when they went into my basement, they found a bunch of like spare parts, and when
Yeah.
they matched the parts, they was like, it's like 5 or 6 stolen bikes, but it was his
Crazy.
parts.
Yeah.
So long story short, he went, brought me to the house, beat me, brought me home, tried to beat me again, and I was like, I grabbed him. My father was like a smaller dude, and I was always kind of like big for my age, and I could have easily took my father out, but my father.
You
know
don't
what I'm
even
saying?
think about
you don't even
something
think about
like
nothing
that. Like, yeah.
But then when we got into a fight that time, I could see he was like, he had to spend money for it, and it was like he lost it.
Yeah.
And all I did is I just grabbed him.
Yeah.
I literally just grabbed him
Yeah.
and just stopped him, and he stopped. He stopped. He looked at me, and he was like, and my father had a gun. He went to the car, got the gun. He said, since you want to be a man now, he put the gun on the table. He said, I'm telling you right now, he just gives a look out for us. He used to always bail me out. Like I said, stopped. That day forward, completely stopped. He set free. When I stopped him, everything stopped. He said, you think you a man? You think you can fight me or touch me, put your hand? He said, I'm not helping you no more.
Yeah.
Any type of money he gave me, done.
Yeah.
And he gripped the gun and he said, I'm telling you right now, I 100% believe him. My father said, I'm telling you right, if you ever touch me, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. And I no, not even a question. He would have did it.
Yeah.
So it was like, from then, obviously I'm not going to fight him. I
Yeah.
never hit my father.
Yeah.
Because I was like, again, it's sort of I would say it was respect, not sort of, but it was respect.
Yeah.
And I could have beat my father up, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But from that point on,
When you
now I knew then I was really like on my own.
you stood up for yourself, but in doing so, you also simultaneously
I closed
like
that door.
took a part of your father-son relationship out of the equation, because probably not even realizing.
Well, you burned a bridge.
Yeah, no, he said it. He
Yeah.
said from then, even when I got incarcerated with this, and again, this is personal. I don't really share this a lot, but when I got incarcerated for this, and I tried to talk to my father, and when I first went to prison, I became a Christian because, and I was like, I never really grew up in a religious household.
Yeah.
Okay.
But because of my crime, and I believe in God, so I'm afraid, and I'm like, even like when I caught my case, I say this with no shame. I went and I cried and I cried and I cried, and I said, God, I didn't mean to kill him. I didn't mean to kill him.
Right.
I didn't mean it. So when I'm in prison, and I went to first thing default, went to Christian services, and when I was going to Christian services, I was calling my father. He never picked up the phone for me. He never called. So I'm calling my brother, and I'm telling my brother, let me talk to my father. My father, he don't want to talk to me.
That's so hard.
Yeah, so he telling me he put him on the phone. Finally, he put him on the phone, and all he kept saying is, you fucked up, man. You fucked up. It's my father. So I'm telling him, I ain't mean it. I did not mean it, man. You know how I was. Literally, all he kept saying is, you fucked up. Don't you see that? You fucked up. And I said, I get it, but you don't understand. It was, and I'm trying to explain and rationale to my father about street
rationalize
life and
it.
crime.
Yeah. None of that shit
Yeah.
even matters.
He said, you fucked up. Click, done. Never heard from him again.
Yeah.
Died, rap. But I say that, like you said, I sit up there and think about when you was mentioning about what he could say. He used to try to say certain things to me. But I believe that at the time I was so deep in it that it was hard to penetrate.
Yeah.
It was, because I was at a point where it was too, like you said, I was too hard.
Exactly.
My heart was too
You
hard.
hardened yourself so much.
Yeah, it was too.
you
It was
couldn't
too.
even-
Where I'm and I'm telling him, you don't understand. And I'm trying to tell him, like,
Oh, he
said, bro,
understood.
He understood.
He
But I'm telling him,
understood.
you don't understand, man. When you in the streets, when you
He
live in this life,
knew.
you don't. And he could have easily just been like, move, leave. I believe, separate, and introduce you to something else.
Yeah.
Introduce you to a new environment. Introduce you to new friends. Introduce
Yeah.
you to something else that you see that is something else outside of this.
Yeah.
Because I was so deep in it, I couldn't see nothing else but that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you started doing that transition, how hard was it? Because I know a lot of people in prison either probably trying to get you to do bad things again, or maybe not really encourage you. But what would you say was like the difficulty of it?
Honestly, it really wasn't that difficult if you're genuine. One thing that I could say about prison is people sense bullshit. They sense bullshit. So if you halfway in and halfway out,
Yeah.
when a person see that you genuinely trying to change,
Yeah.
they'll fall back. But if they think that you're trying to pull a little scheme, if they think you're trying to go to Christian services to
To
Or-
get
Yeah.
something else from it. Yeah.
they gonna eat your food.
Do you
They
see
gonna eat your food.
people in the program like that sometimes?
Absolutely, of course. I
Yeah.
see straight through the bullshit.
So do you come across people that you know or you feel are only there for
Absolutely. You used to come here to get something to eat.
yeah
Respect it, salute, get your eat. Fuck up out of here now.
and do
Because you're
they-
not gonna interfere with other people.
yeah
So I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't never want to say that I would deny services.
No, but you gotta give 'em
one
tough
thing is I can
love, too.
identify
I mean-
bullshit.
No, I mean
Yeah.
you're going to deny the services of people that don't
Yeah.
really give a shit about the people that need
Well,
the
what I'm
actual
trying to do is I'm
services.
trying to shield them.
Exactly.
So for somebody coming inside there, no one's ever going to get denied service inside the program.
No.
You good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I see that
once
you're
you're
going to do
in,
something,
you have to participate.
Yeah, what's
you
that
have
even-
to like do what you came to do and not bullshit.
well,
and
nah,
think that you're,
you autonomous. You
gonna-
can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I
but you're
know
not gonna
I'm
be
not going to
accepted.
commit.
You're not gonna be accepted there doing.
Yeah, they're
that,
gonna be
doing
accepted
that.
there. Nah, they're
Yeah.
gonna be accepted
I mean,
there. But I'm
I
just
mean,
telling you,
as far
I'm not.
as, yeah.
I'm gonna look at you and I'm saying, I'm not gonna go out my way for you.
No, yeah.
You're
If they're
not
not
ready
doing
yet.
the work.
I know
Is what I'm
exactly.
saying.
You're not ready yet.
I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so I know what time it is, bro. If you come in here for this, cool.
Yeah,
If you,
exactly.
You can't talk to me and tell me something that I know what you're doing, bro.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know what
my,
you're doing.
my friend, like, he was like fucking around with a bunch of girls and stuff like that, and I called him out. This is totally different, different levels of stuff.
Yeah.
But he was like,
But psychologically, maybe same
Might
kind of
be
like
the
type
same
thing.
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
but he was fucking around with a bunch of girls and all that stuff. And then he was like, got severely drunk one night, was talking mad shit, and I like stopped him in his tracks, and I just called him out there, yelled at him, everything like that, scolded him for like 2 hours straight about how he needs to like respect people. He can't be talking shit like this about people, yada yada. And then because like in the past, he'd tell me like, I'll change. But this time I actually gave it to him like full on straight.
Yeah.
And I could tell now he's actually changed so much. Like he doesn't fuck around with like girls anymore in the sense of like he 6 to 1 and not being like, well, I got number 5 and 6. I'm seeing them this day, and then 4 and 3. I got this. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm
But
like,
the
dude,
thing
I don't
is-
give a
You
shit.
helped your
Like,
seen
friend
through that
to
shit.
like
Yeah,
really
I
see
tell-
women for what they
Yeah.
are, not just an object.
Yeah,
you know.
and I tell my friends all the time because I agree with that. Like, I don't do the bullshit. If you're coming to me, like, I'm a kind of person who's like, I don't have meaningless conversations. So you come to me and you're like, da 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 da. I'm like, what do you need? Because I know you're coming to me for something.
It's ulterior motive.
So what is
you
it
can already see it when they.
yeah, I was like, what do you
When they
need?
text
Because
you.
they come in my room and they're like, hey, like, and because my room's unlocked, so you can come in my room anytime. And they're like, hey, like, how's it going, Liam? How's your day? I was like, bullshit, you don't give a fuck how my
Trying
day's
to line
going.
me up.
So what do you need right now?
That's
and
it.
they're like, well, I kind of need you to drive me here. And then
That's it.
I'm like, cool, great.
That's it.
And, 'cause
There's
I'll do-
different levels
I'll-
to the shit. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
literally levels to this shit where you, anywhere from that spectrum to a more serious, you know, it just affects people. It affects the people that
Yeah.
are constantly doing it, being the enabler, and then it affects the people that are actually affected by it in the
Yeah.
other way, where it's causing them damage, it's
Yeah.
causing them harm, and we have to be conscious of that.
Yeah. And I'm not saying at all that my level of that is
no.
but I'm saying like
I understand completely.
I understand like the circumstance of it a little bit of like
The mentality.
the mentality of it because I hate it so much when people come to me and be like, hey, like I need help, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, just tell me what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't beat around the bush. Just
Yeah.
say, hey, I need this
That's it.
right now.
Yeah.
Cut it with
Great,
the ulterior motive.
because
Yeah.
I respect it so much more than being like, "How's your day going?" and come in the room like, "Hey, like,
Right.
You're wasting
what's
time right
going
now.
on?"
Right.
I'm
You're
like,
wasting
dude,
time.
So
I'm working on this. I'm working on homework right now. Like, you know how my day's going. You see me gunning out all day.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
know my day.
Don't ask questions you already know the answer
You already
to.
know the answer. So just
lying
tell
to you
me
up.
what the fuck you need.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then, great, you need it. Great, you got it.
Yeah.
If I could give it to you,
So,
Yeah.
as a case manager, how often do you see that kind of thing? How often do you see the people that are kind of
Trying to bullshit around, like,
or
I see
and
it.
versus the people that are really genuine and trying to help? Because I've been myself to a graduation or two for the cohorts that Script holds for their graduating participants, and they are so proud of themselves. And the people that make it through, and the people that hold themselves accountable and stop bullshitting with themselves and other people and start working hard and taking the initiative to do what they
need to
know
get
that they're
done.
supposed to do, it's benefited them tremendously. And I've seen those graduates from the program. I've seen the result of the work that you guys do. But what would you say? Like sometimes, like how do you
you
feel?
mean percentage wise?
Yeah, like ratio, like when you see people come in, how often do you see people like kind of trail off and don't complete the program, and how often do you see people like actually go through and complete the program?
yeah, like the percentage-wise,
I
probably.
would say
yeah.
probably percentage. I'll probably say about 70% of the people that's there to try to do the right thing.
Good.
It's 70, and I would say if you got 3%. So if you say 7 out of 10,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
it's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
But then
yeah.
again, to me, it's like certain
70,
things that
30.
happen. Yeah. So if you have an individual that's coming inside there, and I'll just give you a quick example.
Yeah.
There was an individual that was inside of a halfway house, and he's looking for a job.
Yeah.
And this guy is willing to take a bike. He's willing to take any job that he can get. He's willing to do.
You see people like
I'm
that.
going to go out of my way for him.
I love
You got
people
some
like
people
that.
who believe, oh, wait a minute, well, I'm not working there. I'm not going to do this. I'm not. You know what? Then get what you're going to get. These
You
are
got
the
people that are
services.
like, oh, I got to take the bus to
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
I can't
I'm not
can't
gonna
get
walk.
there.
I'm not going. So to me, once you show me that, you're not
You
serious.
don't really mean it.
Yeah.
And-
You're not
and
really
again-
gonna
and
try
again-
hard
and
at
I tell
anything.
people, not to be funny, this is your life, bro.
Yeah.
This is your life.
Yeah.
I don't have to. I promise you, it's not going to really affect me like that. It may bother me. It may something inside of me be like, damn, I see this.
But
Somebody
you're going
throwing
to
their life
you're going
away.
to sleep with
Bro,
you're going to sleep with like
I'm
count
going
sheep.
home.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
that.
You
So
don't
I'm
care.
like, so I could see when a person is taking that initiative.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go all out. Especially
Yeah.
if I see that, especially right now that I have access to resources and I can help you, I'm gonna go all out.
Yeah, and
but if you don't do that,
there's so
bro,
many
you on your
people I
own.
know that complain like that. They're like, "Oh, I can't do this." It's like you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're just
can.
choosing not to do
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
And I do the same thing sometimes. I'll complain about something like, "Oh, I can't," and it's like, "No, I can."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I have to convince myself, "Oh yeah, no, I'll do it," and I'll do it. You know what I mean? And it's just that mindset.
That's your drive.
Yeah.
That's
It's that-
your drive, and
but yeah.
and you're striving for something greater for
Yeah.
yourself. Unfortunately, a lot of people have a victim mentality,
Yep.
very codependent. They've been brought up or have been in experiences or relationships that have caused them to gradually become codependent or dependent type people. And that sucks so bad because without even realizing it, sometimes you're doing it, sometimes people are doing it to you, but they're causing you to feel like you can't do things, can't function, can't be good, can't be right without their help or without their guidance or without them just being there. So I think that a factor that plays into a lot of people falling through the cracks and just really giving up on themselves and going down the wrong path even, or not even thinking that they're giving up on themselves, but just like really giving up on themselves, just really going, is that factor of, okay, no one is here to stop me. No one's here to tell me no.
Yeah.
If I do this, who's really going to give a shit?
Yeah.
So you as a case manager, you take on that role sometimes of the only person that gives a shit about that person.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go home, they don't have anybody.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they wake up and they're like, I can't wait till it opens so I can call them, so I can talk to somebody. They don't have a personal outlet. So you doing the work you do, how much of your past experiences have given you some kind of success with the participants in the script program?
Well, for the people, I think the reason why I believe that I'm an effective case manager at the script program is because of my lived experience.
Right.
I believe that individuals, some people know me, some people know of my reputation, the bad reputation, and people respect that I went from that person to the band I am today.
Yeah.
So
I think
that,
everyone should respect that. I mean, that definitely is something that not everybody can do. Well, everyone can do it. I should say this. I heard it as I said it. Scratch that. Not something that everybody does.
is willing to do. But and again, and I don't do it for that, and I appreciate anyone who does give me, credit for that, but I don't. I'm doing it because for one, I do owe a big debt. I did a lot of damage in my past. I destroyed communities. I've destroyed my family. I've destroyed someone else's family.
Yep.
I've done a lot of things that I owe.
Yeah.
And if somebody may not agree with that, some people was like, no, you don't owe anybody anything. Yes,
No,
the hell I do.
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's the hell I do.
Because that's how I think a lot of time when I mess up something like that. It's like, no, I owe people that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I owe an internal debt because I don't just look at it as the image and the things that I was doing influenced other people.
Forever.
Influenced my family.
It didn't make a temporary impact in someone's life. It made a permanent
So
impact.
if I had the responsibility of doing that back then, I have the responsibility now to turn that narrative now
Exactly.
to show you this is a thing.
Because you put all that
I did.
energy into doing the bad things.
Let me put
Why
energy-
can you take that energy and put it in the
Yeah.
good? You know?
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
And I commend
fully
you,
agree with
I mean, for that,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. And now I'd like to focus a little bit of this to the fact that you're a motherfucking author
Yeah.
and you wrote how many books?
28.
Can we please talk about this?
Sure. Well, like I said, when I started writing, it wasn't to write for anyone. I was writing, first of all, it was therapeutic. It transitioned over to me saying, you know what, I want to write about. I wrote my autobiography. It's called The Death of Me, Accounts of Street Life, Incarceration, and Skills of Socialization. We created a program inside the prison when you're talking about the programs.
Yep.
We created a program called the Skills of Socialization Program that received national headlines. We are literally in all newspapers. We had judges coming in. We had, everyone's coming in to come see about the program because, again, we had a program that was a no bullshit program. We told individuals, you're not going to get a certificate.
Yep.
You're not going to get anything.
No.
This program is specifically
It's just for you.
for you.
Yeah.
And that kind of weeded out a lot of people because the people inside there, I want to go for parole. I want to get this.
Because they want the paper to show.
They
Yeah.
want something.
To be
And
like, look, I did this.
Exactly.
Can
And
I get something in return?
we specifically told them, you get nothing.
yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Nothing. If you
Yeah.
come here, you're coming here for yourself.
For
You're
Good.
coming
yourself.
here to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was something that the prison hadn't seen, and that was something that they was like, oh, that's gonna go away in a minute. No one, if you're not giving them something, our program went through the roof because they was like, them dudes is real. So one of the things that again started writing was just to write for therapy,
Therapeutic reasons.
and it was to write about for my kids. But then I started saying, hold up, just a quick story.
Sure.
I was on a pen pal site.
Yep.
And there you lonely, I had a pen pal site. And I was writing, I had a female pen pal out in Kansas City. Shout out Audrey Martin. And she,
Audrey, what's
Audrey
up?
Martin, yeah, no,
let's
I'm telling you.
go.
It's because she was writing, and I know I'm going to get slack for this, but I was writing, and she was saying,
All right.
have you ever thought about being an author? And have you ever thought about writing? And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, she's just trying to gas me up, trying to tell me something. And she was like, no, the way that you wrote that, you like really put me there. And I'm like, yeah, because I have nothing else to do. So I'm like, I'm writing her these things. And that's what really made me say, you know what? Let me try this.
If you can touch
So-
one person's life,
Yeah, and she
Why
did
can't
that.
you
And at
touch
first
more?
I was like, that's why I say to this day I credit her because
Yeah.
that really made me say, then I started reading like Eric Jerome Dickey, favorite author, started reading his books. And then there was one book called Be More Careful by Shannon Holmes. He did 5 years in prison and he came and he was a writer. And
Yep.
he was and so I was like, that was the identifiable factor. I said it
He
was
was like
somebody
you.
like me
Yeah.
who did what and I was like, I'm gonna do this. And I ended up writing a book. I wrote a book called Queen of Thieves, and I ended up getting signed. I ended up sending it out to Triple Crown Publications, signed for a 2-book deal. And that was
Okay,
like
Triple Crown Publications.
Yeah, Triple Crown Publications.
All
I
right.
respect that, and they ended up signing me. And from then it was a wrap. I was writing monster. I couldn't even sleep. It got to the point where I was at work. I was working inside the market shop. I'm running back, writing, and it was like I
love it.
I couldn't sleep. It was
I
just
love
a wrap.
that.
Yeah.
What was your favorite book you wrote? Probably
A Scent of Jasmine.
Scent of Jasmine.
Yeah, Scent of Jasmine.
What number book was that?
That was probably that's probably
About?
Yeah, that's probably I'm at least 15 books in by then.
Okay.
Yeah, I was at least 15
Kind of in
books
the middle
by-
of your.
Yeah.
And where can you get your books usually?
Yeah.
Amazon.
Amazon?
Right, go Amazon. Yeah.
Cool.
Please give us some kind of
Yeah.
link or like what.
Yeah, I could give you the link. I could take you to my
read
website.
it. Read
I
it
got
out
my publishing
loud.
company.
Please tell us.
Death of Me, Accounts of Street Life, Incarceration, Skills of Socialization, When Death Becomes You. It's a 4-part series.
Yeah.
I just turned my book into a movie. It's called The Anonymous Black Files. That's an independent movie coming out. I Sent to Jasmine, Hail, Ghetto Messiah, 2-part series. I could keep going. I have my Visions of Green series, 5-part series.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Please tell
definitely-
people how to spell your name so that when they look up, when they can find it on Amazon, they can go right to Amazon
Yeah.
and look up.
It's my
books
middle name.
by
My middle
you.
name is Kamathi Kama. KIMATHI KHAMA. Kamathi Kama. That's my author name. That's my pen name. It's my middle
Okay,
name.
everybody,
Yeah.
Kamathi Kama.
Kamathi Kama.
I implore you to get on Amazon, check out his series of books, and share part of his journey with him, and support him, because as a young African American man sent to prison for a very serious crime at a young age, to learn from that experience and grow to be somebody that can actually speak to other young men that are in the position that you were in once, and to be able to inspire and to guide and to assist young men and women that are misguided, that haven't been treated fairly, that are on the wrong path. That's something to definitely be proud of for yourself.
I would think if they read The Death of Me, that was, I would say, one of my more powerful works. I like Ascent to Jasmine better because it's a
The
Hitman series.
Death of Me
yeah,
and A Scent of Jasmine.
Yeah, that's the one where
Okay.
I
Those are
kind
his
of
two
went away
favorites.
from what I normally do. I typically went away from, the hood. It was about I wrote about a Navy SEAL type person, and so. But The
Okay.
Death of Me is about my growth, and if someone want to read a story about someone who been through something and the things that changed me, I
Yeah.
believe The Death of Me it will be very powerful for them to read.
And you have a podcast.
We have the podcast, the Urban
Urban
Thank
Echoes
you,
Network
Liam.
podcast.
My
Yes.
next point.
Yes, we just
Absolutely.
last night we interviewed. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Calvin Klein. Calvin Klein was one of these big drug dealers
Yep.
out of New York. Yep, we just interviewed Calvin Klein.
So your podcast, what is the title? What's the name of your podcast?
Urban Echoes Network podcast.
Urban Echoes Network Podcast.
Yes,
Okay, and what platforms can we find that?
that I don't even know. I know you could get it on YouTube, but I
Yeah.
know that
Is it on Spotify, you think?
It
Yeah.
might be on Spotify, yeah. Because what it
Okay.
is the person who's monetizing all of that is actually the supervisor, Edward Andrews.
Edward
Shout out to Ed Andrews.
is the founder
Yes, he's
of
the founder
Script.
of Script, and
Yes.
he's actually in charge of all of that. So they just got me, and I'm chopping it
So
up with
so
individuals.
Script is it's a podcast through Script.
Yes,
Okay, and you're one of the hosts.
I'm one of the hosts. Yes,
Okay, that's wonderful. I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
And Ed Andrews, again, testament to him. He also did a lengthy amount of time for a crime, and came out and wanted to do good in the community.
absolutely. He's
And
doing phenomenal.
Oh.
The work that he's doing in the community, I cannot applaud him enough.
yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be here today talking about what you're doing with the work you're doing with Script without
Absolutely.
Ed Andrews.
Without the
so,
Script Andrews. So
you
salute,
know,
shout out to Edward Andrews.
absolutely.
Script CEO, official.
Yes, check out Script Inc. SCRIP
That's it.
Inc. on
75 Charter
Facebook,
Ave. That's it.
Instagram. Check it out and see what they're all about. They're all about spreading positivity and helping to people deal with past trauma, and how to help them just reintegrate into society. If they are having issues with that, grow their businesses. There's plenty of people that come out that they're not destitute, that are not homeless, that are not without opportunity, that do have familial support, and that also are starting their own businesses, becoming authors, writing their own books, doing things that a lot of us out here only dream about doing, and can't get off our video game systems and put our cell phones down enough, long enough to actually achieve some of these things. So when you hear that somebody has been incarcerated for any amount of time, before you judge, you need to be able to understand their story, and not everybody deserves to be there. If they did, they've done their time. They have contributed their time to their community, and they're trying to do better. So, I always say to people, you never judge a book by its cover. Ironically, it's a age-old saying, but we're talking about, you writing books, but it rings true. It's just a real solid saying. You can't judge a book by its cover, because if you didn't tell me that you did almost 25 years behind bars, I would have never have known that. I would have never have
appreciate that.
felt that from you. I would have never, and we talked personally before this podcast that we're on today together, and you shared with me the fact that you kind of live with this underlying, like, sense of, you feel like you don't want to offend people, you don't want to scare people, you don't want to be seen as that person that, just got out after doing all this time, and it affects the way that you communicate with people, and it affects the way that you live and the way that you move sometimes.
No, that was definitely a product of conditioning. And that's what I said. To me, unfortunately, because I was in an environment for so long where they constantly treat you like an animal. They constantly treat you as a threat. And some of it's justifiable. I'm not gonna, because again, you got good COs, you got bad COs, you got good cops, you got bad cops. So
You
I
got
would
good
never sit up there
inmates,
and
you got
say-
bad
you got
inmates.
exactly. So to me, what and the problem is I got so accustomed to people perceiving me as a threat that I go on now and I'm trying to let you know I'm not no threat, man. I'm not no problem. I don't want you to feel threatened. If there's anything that I can do to make you feel more comfortable, I want to make you feel comfortable. I don't want to put you in a position where you feel like, even me, I don't want you to, in my mind, if I'm thinking that you're going to think something funny, I'm going to try to lower it.
It's our first meeting that we had. I came to visit him in his office, and we sat down and we talked. We met at a job fair through Script, where I am an equal opportunity employer. As many of you know, I own a residential and commercial cleaning company, Jack's Cleaning Service. And when we were there, we had agreed, he's like, you have a podcast, I have a podcast, let's connect, let's talk about it. I came to his office, and we're talking and we're vibing and we're like getting to know each other and we're asking each other questions. And then, someone out in the hallway starts vacuuming. Like, it's like towards the end of the day. So the office is like closing down. And in my head, I'm like, I hope he closes the door. I'm like, so we can like talk uninterrupted, I almost got up and closed the door myself. Because just like, and then he made a comment afterwards like, well, I was like, do you want to close the door? He's like, I didn't know if you wanted me to close the door. I don't want you to think, anything. Like, I could immediately sense that you didn't want to make me uncomfortable.
No.
But it was like, what for? You haven't done anything or said anything to make me feel uncomfortable this whole time. Why would I feel uncomfortable? And we're in an office setting and we're having a meeting, but that, and we spoke about that, I'm like, oh, I can see now that there's still a little bit of that lingering conditioning in you. And you've been out for about 4 years now, right?
Coming up on 4 years, yeah.
Right, almost 4 years. And kudos to you. You've done so many positive things, and you've helped to impact some people's lives for the positive. And, not everybody can do that, right away when they come out of a situation where sometimes they need a little bit of support and guidance too, But something that, I felt from you is that, you still have this overall sense of just overly wanting to like almost prove yourself, like that you're not a threat, that you're not this guy that you got sentenced for 25 almost 29 years ago, and unfortunately a lot of people that come out and are have that second chance don't really get the full second chance. People say, yeah, we'll give you a chance, but they're always going to be looking at you a little funny. You know, they might say, oh, yeah, we'll give you a chance, but they're always going to be like, you know, when something goes down, you're going to be the first one that's going to be
That's out.
accused,
Yeah.
you know, because of your history. So it's like, how are you supposed to really get a second chance if people can't become open-minded enough, you know what I mean, to really see people for what they are and who they are and how they've changed. And I want to tell you that, you know, you have, since we've met, you're so kind, you're intellectual. I admire what you've done. Your story is
Appreciate you. Thank
very
you.
admirable, and I would like for you to continue doing the work that you're doing. I think it's very prominent, it's very important. And, you know, coming up on the end of this show today, I'll ask you to leave our listeners with a piece of advice for the people who are going through some things that they might be able to prevent from getting worse, and then to the people who are also already caught up in it, in the middle of it, in the thick of it.
I mean, one thing that I would do when I tell people, even when I counsel people inside the program, is perception. Perception, one, and two, hindsight. I try to ask people, right now, you're looking at the problem, everything, like we was mentioning earlier, everything looks grim, gloom, end of the world.
Yeah,
It's not.
right.
It may seem like it is, but it's not. So I try to tell people, again, stop, think about tomorrow, next week, the month after, where will you be? Will the decisions that you make today help you in where you're trying to go, or will they hurt you? One of the main things I tell people, again, stop, take a breath. Because my problem was I acted, I react. I don't think, I react.
Yeah.
Something happens, react. I don't think. It became my default.
Your lack of impulse control.
Yes.
Which a
So-
lot of people
Have.
Yeah.
So one of the major things that helped me, stop, take a breath. Stop, take a drive. I don't advocate smoking weed, smoke a blunt. I don't advocate drinking. If it's going to help you, I don't advocate any of those things. But for some people, whatever you need to do to take you off that path, if you're going in that wrong direction, if you have somebody to talk to, somebody that you can rely on, somebody that's in your corner, lean on these people. Because a lot of times we want to take on the world by ourselves.
Right.
A lot of times we figure, again, that nobody's going to understand. Reach out to people.
Yeah.
If you're in a situation where you're struggling, you're in trouble mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, reach out to people.
to someone,
Talk to somebody.
anybody.
And I've learned even inside this field, before I wasn't a big advocate on talking, that's women, that's chicks type stuff.
A lot of men have that, you know, mentality, that stigma of therapy or talking to somebody, venting.
And especially in the African American
It's like a
community.
feminine kind of
we
like
don't do
thing.
that. We don't talk.
It is
talk.
true.
We just handle.
I
We
hate that
We keep
so
it in
much.
but nah, we don't do that.
Our men need to be able to emote. Our
Exactly.
boys need to be able to express
Find
themselves.
your brother and talk to your brother. Talk to
Yes.
somebody that you know is going to have your best interest. Because if you have somebody who's talking to you and it's the A alike and he's going to lead you down the wrong path,
Yeah.
he's not the one to talk to. So if you're in a position where you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody.
Yes.
Reach out to somebody. Call me. I'm at the script program. I'll talk to you.
Okay.
But just reach out to somebody so that you're not alone, because you're not alone. And you have to know that you're not alone. And some people don't
Absolutely.
believe that there's people out there, that there's resources out there. Reach out.
I used to feel very alone. I'm an only child, you know, and I was raised as an only child. And when my mom was out on her binges, guess who was in the house by herself at 8 and up, you know, younger, wondering where, you know, I felt very alone for a long time, to the point where I even didn't really talk to a lot of my friends about it. I was 11 years old when my mom left for 6 days and 5 nights. And I didn't tell anybody because I was so embarrassed. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell my teachers. I didn't tell my other family members. I went to school every day. I played after school with my friends like they did. When their parents called them in for dinner, I went inside and cooked for myself. You know, I was so embarrassed and she was so ashamed of like my lifestyle at that age, even though it wasn't my fault and it wasn't my doing. I was damaging myself so much by holding all that in, you know, even at such a young age. And then when I got a little older, you know, 13, 14, I started really talking to my friends about what was going on at home. And I got nothing but fucking support. I didn't think I was going to get that. I thought that I was going to be looked down on, be pitied. Felt like a charity case. Felt like I didn't want anyone to feel bad for me, but I just like.
And none of that happened.
None of that happened. You know, I was embraced. I was told encouraging things about myself. I was uplifted by my sisters, you know, and my brothers. I grew up as a tomboy. I had guy friends just as much as girlfriends. Still to this day, some of them, you know, Kevin, I've been friends with since I was 8 years old. Justine since I was 10. Rachel since I was 12. I mean, shout out to those people because it's been 27 plus years and they're still here and they're still getting my phone calls. Like, do you know what my son did to me? Do you know what my daughter said to me? You know, and it's just something that I wouldn't really understand what that's like if I didn't start reaching out. So even if you feel like there's not anyone that can relate, because my friends were not in the same position as I was. Their parents were home. They were cooking them dinner. You know, it wasn't the same. So that's why I felt for so long that, I'm like, who am I going to talk to? Nobody gets this. Nobody understands
like
this.
You're the only one dealing with this.
Yeah, but even if they're not dealing with the same thing as you,
they were there for you.
They were there for me, and don't sell people short of their ability to comfort, you know, and to be there.
If you have somebody, reach out.
Always do. That's one thing I learned at a young age. So, you know, and then last words to the people that are behind bars right now, that are struggling, maybe have just gone in, maybe have been in for a while. What could you say to them to help, you know, maybe to feel a little better, get a little hope?
I mean, what I would say to them, I was there, so I know what time it is. I would say that, you know what you got to do for yourself, and you know what you got to do mentally to prepare yourself. That some people is doing big bids. We call them football numbers. And the reason why we call them football numbers, because it's the numbers that you'll see on the jerseys.
Yeah.
So you got some people doing football numbers. You got some people who's not doing numbers like that. Whatever the case is, ask yourself, like, what do you want out of life? What do you, even inside, I knew that there was some value that I could bring, either to other people or to myself, my family. But the main thing is, like you just said, as long as you're breathing and you wake up, there's a possibility for change and there's hope.
Yeah.
As long as you wake up and you're breathing, there's hope and there's an opportunity for change. So be positive and continue to strive. Hopefully you're striving for the positive, not the negative. Hopefully you're striving to be a better person and not a bad person. Hopefully you're striving to do the good thing and not the wrong thing. But continue striving. Continue moving forward. That's it.
Thank you so much. And Liam, you know, before we get out of here, is there something that you could take away from today's show as well? I mean, you live in a very contrast world to what we were talking about today. But you are a very insightful young man, and you, I know, are able to take one situation and bring it into the other and have some learning curve to
some like thoughts about it. I think it's really great to hear that some people in the system do good work afterwards and are trying to achieve greatness afterwards for themselves. So it's I respect you a lot for doing that, because there's a lot of people that keep going through the cycle over and over and over again, and they never learn, and they just keep going at it, and they're like, well, you might as well just keep going again because I have more friends in there than I have out here, which kind of sucks. But for you to realize that you can do better out here and you have your kids and all that stuff, I think that shows how much of a man you've grown as a person from the kid that you were when you did that to the man you are here, sitting here right now. So I think as someone who I am listening to this, I think all respect to you, whatever, however way you want to take it, you know.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I think that your kids should definitely be grateful for the father they have has developed, you know. So, because I not to say anything, but I guarantee you weren't the best father to begin with, but you've definitely now are probably the best father that they could ever get, you know.
Appreciate
So
that. Thank you.
yeah,
And going into
Absolutely.
that again, I wasn't going to pry too much, but is there something that you'd like to, let your kids know on air right now, that something that you might want to share with them, just a message you might want to portray to them? Because I know, how old are they right now? What are their names?
Monica's 35, Sean's 34, Audley's 27.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's something I tell them all the time, that I tell them that I'm not going to be here forever, and they're not going to be here forever. And
Right.
we all make mistakes as adults, as kids. We make mistakes as we're human. And I understand that, I have a strained relationship with my kids because I wasn't there. And
I
I
understand
understand that there's
that.
an underlying anger, and I get it. But the only way that we'll be able to bridge this is through communicating and through having the ability to say forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's harder for some people. I have a better relationship with my daughter than my sons.
Yeah.
And because just like I was mentioning earlier about the dude, this gang member, I have a situation with my son
Yeah.
where, again, I'm opening up on the air and being very personal, but
Yeah.
I felt that I had to fight my son. And I felt that as men, we reach an age where we challenge our fathers.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Yeah,
felt
for
that
sure.
I felt that he was robbed of that opportunity, and I felt that he was robbed of the opportunity to kind of push back on his father.
Yep.
And I felt that I felt it, and I felt that as an adult, that he felt like he was kind of shortchanged of that. I was robbed of that.
Yeah.
And I felt, you know what? Let me get some gloves, and we just gonna scrap it out. And
Let his emotions
get all your anger out.
out, anger,
get everything that you
frustrations.
feel, get it out.
Yeah.
And that never happened. My brother was like, but one thing that I would want to teach them is, again, forgiveness. Not just me. I mean, if you want to forgive me, I get it, but forgiveness. And
Yeah.
they know, I told them a million times over, I cannot tell you how much sorry I am for not being there. I didn't choose that. I didn't want that to happen. That was a consequence of my poor decision making. It was a consequence of me unfailing to control my anger.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I could tell them anything, is that I'm human. I made a mistake. I don't love you any less, and that I hope that we can continue to bridge and build a stronger relationship.
Yep.
I hope
Love you,
that for
Monica. Love you,
too.
Sean. Love you, Audley.
I love that for you, and I really hope that, you can continue on this path of righteousness and healing and forgiveness, because I'm 38 years old right now, and I still have a strained relationship with my mother from all the past stuff that has happened, and I am actively working on a journey of healing and forgiveness. So I can probably relate to a lot of things that your children are feeling, frustrations, questions, confusion, things like that, just plain anger, But it's something that I know that I need to be able to heal within myself, and I need to be able to forgive her for her shortcomings and her lack of knowledge on how to be a parent to me. So I'm learning, and I'm sure your children are learning, and as you are learning. And as I said earlier today, we are ever changing. There's never going to be a time in our lives that we are not changing in some way in that moment, whether how slow or how fast it may be. So I appreciate you being on the show today.
I appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.
Definitely. I mean, you spoke a lot about the growth that you've had over the years, the strife that you've been through, and the ways that you're actively trying to help the members of your community, because that's another thing, you came back to the community that it all started in. And I know that's something that you didn't intend to do, you didn't want to do, you didn't plan to do, and you probably thought that was not going to be the right move for yourself. But now look at the impact that you're making for others, and give yourself a round of applause. Like, let's just, like, you've been doing so good, and I just, I want people to know that the decisions you're making now is not going to impact the rest of your life. I mean, sometimes it could, but if you can have the wherewithal.
Correction. I want the decisions that I'm doing now to impact the rest of my life in a positive way.
In a positive way,
Yes.
right, true. So, but
And others as well.
but every decision you make, it could impact the rest of your life in a negative or a positive way.
Yes.
And just let's focus on being kind to each other.
Absolutely.
And being kind to ourselves when we feel like we're going through something and that nobody else can really relate to. Trust me, there are people out there that can relate to you.
Absolutely.
And there are programs out there just like Script, and there are therapists out there that are waiting for someone like you to call them so that they can help you through whatever you're going through.
Absolutely.
I am
Tap
big
into
on
those resources.
Yeah,
Tap
we have to remove the negative stigma on mental health, on needing help, getting therapy,
Absolutely.
getting counseling, because there's nothing but good that can come from that. And I appreciate people like you that are open to talk to me on this show about some of the past traumas that you've been through, some of the hardships, and some of the ways that you're learning to get through it. So, thank you so much, and
for having me.
I really commend you for all the work that you're doing now. And I look forward to seeing some more things from you. And I'm going on Amazon. I don't know about you guys, but I have to.
The Death of Me.
Yep, The Death of Me, and what is it, Jasmine?
A Scent of Jasmine.
A Scent of Jasmine. Okay, you guys. Those are two of his favorites. This man has written 28 books. Hello, Amazon. Let's get to it. Anyways, thank you guys for listening to another episode of TraumCom Podcast. And I hope that you stay tuned for next
Peace.
episode. And everyone take care of yourselves out there.